So nearby Lucas, as I pour myself a bourbon and Coke in my Hello Kitty mug, that's a sentence I'm saying, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about one of just my personal biggest disappointments in gaming of recent years.
Marvel's Avengers. So nearby Lucas, tell us about Marvel's Avengers.
So as somebody that plays, Destiny 2 a lot, was very excited for a co-op live service, living Marvel Avengers game.
That allows you to pick your favourite Marvel character and just whoop some ass.
Unless you're on Xbox and you can't play Spider-Man.
Marvel's Avengers is a 2020 action role-playing brawler video game that is very bad. I added that part, but developed by Crystal Dynamics and published by Square Enix. Based on the Marvel Comics superhero team, the Avengers. Do you think people would have got that from the title?
Yeah.
I know it's a Wikipedia article and they have to write it in a certain way, but you think a game called Marvel's Avengers, that's kind of suggested by it. The game is played from a third-person perspective and is very bad, and has both single-player and multiplayer modes, both of which are very bad, and feature online co-op, which is also bad, allowing players to assemble a team of heroes of their own. Not that it matters, because the game is bad. The initial roster consisted of... do you remember the roster, Lucas? The initial roster.
So it's Kamala Khan, Hulk, Thor, Captain America, Iron Man, and Black Widow.
Yes, good, all right. So essentially the characters who appeared in movies.
Yeah, apart from Hawkeye, which then they dropped 2 Hawkeyes straight back to back. It's who's the 7th exciting character, or
Hawkeye.
8th exciting character is another Hawkeye. It's wait, what?
Marvel's Avengers was released for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Stadia. Fucking, there's another Wiki weekend that's waiting to be made. On September 4th, 2020, the game received mixed reviews upon release, with critics praising its combat and story. I need to know what critics praise the combat in this game. And there's obviously a mistake here because there's a subheading that says gameplay. And I'm not going to read that because this has no gameplay. It's you press the button and you win. I don't know how this game has less depth than Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. If you want to play a fun co-op Marvel game with a load of heroes, may I add, go and play Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 on Switch.
Yeah, because, the gameplay in that is not deep, but you have a choice of 80 fucking characters. You can team up, the Fantastic Four with, Super Skrulls and the Incredible Hulk and Ghost Rider and Venom and all that bollocks.
And the Hulk doesn't punch as hard as Black Widow in that game. It's it makes no sense.
The first time I got hands on Hulk and I punched generic level 1 enemy and he took it, I'm no.
The health bar drops by a third. You're this is the fucking Hulk or Thor. It's these are god-powered beings and they're not taking out a guy in a SWAT suit in a punch.
And Lucas, there are a couple of subheadings here, and what would you like to start with? We have pre-release, post-release, reception.
See, I want to say reception, but I think maybe touch on post-release.
Okay, do you know what? They're both a paragraph each.
Okay.
That's how you can tell that this game sucks, because no one's even gone to the Wikipedia page to fucking update it. So, a release trailer was released on Marvel Entertainment's YouTube channel in 2017, which announced the game. The game was under the working title The Avengers Project, which is a better title. More than 2 years later, at E3 2019, Square Enix hosted a press conference that shared more details on the game, including a full trailer and the release date. The 14-minute presentation also showed a trailer made from in-game footage. A closed beta was available for those who pre-ordered the game. Man, I feel bad for those guys.
I was just going to say, they also, along with that trailer, did declare that the game's microtransactions would not include any pay-to-win elements.
Well, Lucas, we've got a section just down here called Controversy, so don't worry, mate. Don't worry, we'll definitely get to that. Marvel's Avengers was originally set to release on the platforms mentioned earlier, but was pushed back to the 4th of September in order to adjust and polish the game. It's rough that when they delay it to polish it and it still comes out crap.
It's hard to polish a turd.
It is, Lucas, but you can roll it around in glitter, which they didn't even bother doing. Because, did you see the thing about cosmetic DLC? Where they used the same excuse they did for Star Wars Battlefront 2?
Oh, that you don't want a pink Darth Vader.
Yeah. So to explain what I mean, folks, there was initially quite a bit of hype from this game. People like myself. Because I just love the idea of customizing characters. And I played a lot of Injustice 2 just to customize the characters in that game. And myself and a lot of other people were hoping that this Avengers game will be like that. It's even if the gameplay is bad, at least I can make a cool looking Captain America. Mm-hmm. And they said, well, almost all of the upgrades you can get for your character are non-cosmetic because, and I want to say the quote something nobody wants to have Thor with Hello Kitty on his armor or something like that. To which the overwhelming response from people online is, yes, we do, that sounds rad. Fuck off with these like bullshit excuses, let us dress Thor in bright pink. That is such a missed opportunity because I would play that game. I would struggle through that game if I got to dress up my Captain America and I got to make him look like a dumbass.
Well, you get to make him look like a dumbass, but in the one specific way that they want you to, because you can't even mix and match parts of the outfits.
And you can just feel executives at Marvel and Disney saying, Captain America has to look this way. No, if he's wearing this outfit, he can't have this shield. And it makes the game more limited and less fun. The whole point of the online multiplayer element is that you go on and you play as your version of the Hulk. It's like, but he looks like everybody else's. It's so bad. So yeah, post-release, following the initial release of the game, Crystal Dynamics released several free downloadable content packs, adding new playable characters and missions that continue the game's stories. In June 2020, the first of the expansion was revealed to focus on Hawkeye. Later in August, Spider-Man was announced as a second playable DLC character, exclusively to PlayStation. And what do you have to say about that, Lucas?
Well, A, it's not out yet.
That's what makes it so funny. It cannot be understated how much this crippled this game's chances of having any sort of public goodwill. Because they are essentially telling 50% of their potential player base to go and fuck themselves.
I pretty much decided that I'm not going to buy the game because of that announcement.
As soon as I heard that, so I'm not paying for it. I'll play it when it goes on Game Pass because that means it's fucking failed. It's like when you refuse to watch a movie and it appears on Netflix 8 months later and you're like, oh, this did not do well. So, critical reception. Marvel's Avengers received, and I quote, mixed or average reviews. Destructoid summarised its 6 out of 10 review, calling the game slightly above average or simply inoffensive.
And that's the worst thing to be. We obviously say this quite a lot, but just being so middle of the road and boring that nobody cares is the worst outcome possible.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that sentiment. And to explain what we mean by that, something being just middling to average is the worst it can be because it means that no one gives a fuck. At least if it's bad, it exists in pop culture as a touchstone, and its badness can become a touch point for discussions about other things, or you can enjoy it ironically. When it's just average or just there's nothing to say. Shaq News praised the campaign and unique character abilities. So you can ignore anything from Shaq News, folks at home. US Gamer scored the game 2.5 stars and wrote, if Marvel's Avengers with a single-player story campaign, it will be amazing. Crystal Dynamics sells you on its version of the Avengers and introduces you to the charming and endearing Miss Marvel to players everywhere. Combat has, and I quote, depth to it, and each hero feels truly distinct.
I will say that is the one common come away that I've seen is that
Miss Marvel.
The Miss Marvel storyline was actually really good.
Yeah.
Almost as if Crystal Dynamics are really good at making single-player story-based games.
Electronic Gamer Monthly said, Marvel's Avengers squanders the potential of what might have been a fun superhero romp by grafting on, and I quote, an annoying, overly repetitive games-as-a-service component.
And Karl, did you see what Square Enix said recently?
No, I did not, and you alluded to this before we started recording. No, don't tell me when the cameras are rolling.
Yeah, because I just said, did you hear about the statement? Mm-hmm. That was all I let.
So what's the statement, Lucas?
So I'm not quoting this verbatim or anything, but in a recent investors call or something, Square Enix.
That's where the real shit gets told.
Exactly. Square Enix were we are really disappointed by the release of Avengers. And maybe we shouldn't have had the company Crystal Dynamics do this because they're not used to making games as a service game. Essentially just the whole statement was throwing Crystal Dynamics under the bus.
It's their fault that we told them to do this.
And it's I feel so bad because they got forced to make a game they didn't want to make. And then Square Enix kick them while they're down and it's their fault. Blame them. It's not a problem.
There is nothing that sums up how few fucks giant companies give as long as their bottom line is protected more than when giant companies throw other giant companies under metaphorical buses just to appease their shareholders. Even though we had almost complete and total control over this entire project, it wasn't our fault. Post-release, in the weeks following its launch, Avengers saw a large player drop due to audiences frustrated at the game's current problems, such as bugs, repetitive gameplay, and lack of content. And that's the thing, lack of content. In a game which can plumb the depths of all of Marvel's comic history. There's 70 years worth of stuff to get there.
It's really bizarre how bare bones it was, and the fact that it's a games as service game, it's a multiplayer online game.
It lives and breathes by you
Yeah.
replaying missions and getting cool
And
shit.
like the end game content didn't exist in release. Like they waited over a year to add a raid into like an online multiplayer game.
Peter Morrix of Screamer reported that around 1,190 players were on Steam playing the game during a weekend in November 2020, a 96% decline since the game's debut. 96% decline.
Holy shit!
That game's dead. That's like I remember seeing that headline. This is dead. Just
That's
kill
like
it.
dead on arrival.
Like just make it free to play.
Yeah,
And they did. Like a year and a half later, I put it on Game Pass.
essentially, yeah.
Yeah, it's dead. Just let it go. It says just a short while after release, there was only as many as 500 players online at one point in the entire game, causing problems with matchmaking.
Yeah, no shit.
Mike Fahey of Kotaku noted that players such as himself were growing bored of the in-game's repetitive features and lack of content. After receiving a statement from Crystal Dynamics, he advised players to go and play other games. Now, that's a person in the industry with a direct line to Crystal Dynamics, and after raising these concerns with them, his only takeaway is, go play another game.
Yeah, it's like, oh, so what are you going to do to fix this? We're not.
Nothing. That's bad.
Yeah, that's
Like
really
when
bad.
you have a direct line to your audience and your answer is so bad, that's someone who is trying to save the game just says, go play something else.
Yeah, because you know that that's clearly them reaching out like, what can I tell people to keep them playing and like get them back?
He says here, the guy loved the game, yeah, and he was disappointed that he couldn't play with other people. Sales and controversies are only like 2 sentences each. Should we just cover that dead quick?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so sales. Avengers was the best-selling retail game during its first week on sale in the UK.
Probably just for that one
It's
week.
probably the only game for sale that week. In the US, the game was the top-selling title for the month of September and the second highest launch title in dollar sales of all time behind for a superhero game behind Spider-Man.
Yeah, for a superhero game.
For a superhero game, that's the
where they get it, yeah.
Despite initial strong sales, Marvel's Avengers failed to turn a profit at all for Square Enix, with the publisher reporting an estimated loss of $63 million. And then controversies. In September 2021, Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix introduced XP Boosts, which can only be purchased via real-world money. XP Boosts allow players to gain more experience points for a short period of time, allowing them to level up faster. And Lucas, do you want to explain why this was controversial?
Yeah, because I don't know the exact phrasing they used, but basically when the game was announced, it was basically said, we will not give you any game advantage via real-world purchases.
The company previously promised that the game would only feature microtransactions for cosmetics and customization items only. It also says here that in March 2021, they deliberately changed the progression system, which made leveling up a longer process.
Oh yeah, they did that, and apparently it's a massive grind.
These 3 things, you can draw a straight line between them of a massive loss of funds for the company after a disappointing release, a update to the game that makes leveling up more difficult for anyone playing it, the release of paid DLC that allows you to level up faster.
And now they've apologized, and they said they are removing those XP boosts because they didn't realize that players would be annoyed because it's not directly affected to your power gain.
Even though leveling up does make you more powerful. And didn't you say the excuse they're using is that it doesn't make you more powerful because you only get experience points and you have to spend the experience points to then power up your character? So because you have to have that extra step to power your character, that's not technically paying to upgrade your character?
It's not technically being a direct effect on your power gain. It's but it is.
There's one extra step you have to do and the step between it is this high. Yeah. And it's also a straight line. It's just, what a fucking bag of wank.